Season 7, Episode 1, Take 1. Oh, yeah, I can't do that anymore. What's good, everybody? My name is Jake, and welcome back to the One Take series, where we get one chance to reflect on the day. No second chances, no third chances, one take, and one take only. So obviously I have some explaining to do, but we'll get into more of that later. So let's just start off with what happened today, okay? So the thing is, today wasn't really a bad day. Well, actually, the thing is today was a good day, but it was only a good day because it was a bad day and I made the most out of what I have. That's the way that I put it, okay? So I wanted to start off, like I said, I believe I mentioned it yesterday, that I wanted to get all of my schoolwork done at school, okay? And so far, I've already broken that rule, okay? So I need to do a better job of holding myself accountable and actually keeping the schoolwork just at school and keeping my personal life at home. Because if I do what I did today and I'm kind of like working late on schoolwork stuff already, it's not going to really benefit anybody. So, I guess in order to really start, we need to introduce some classes first. But there's like maybe a few. There's only a few that we need to bring up, right? There are a couple. Like, how should I mention them? That's the thing that this is the thing at the start of each semester for anybody who's new. What I do is I go in and I assign anonymous like names, just kind of like little code names, so that way I don't reveal anything, just for privacy reasons, you know. So I feel like I don't really know what I should do. Let me see. I guess I'll say. Hmm. I don't know actually. I don't know what they should be. I guess right now we could just call them by numbers. So the ones that you need to know for today are 274 and 498. Those are the ones right now. And then afterwards, ones that we're gonna have to get into a little bit later, probably like more tomorrow or so, because I don't know too much about those classes, or the other classes are going to be my major specific ones, which I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is 471, 420, 421. I want to say 421 and then 430. I'm pretty sure these are the numbers. So we'll get into more of these three later, just because I don't really have a good impression of any of them because I haven't done any of them yet. So for context, 471 is a lab. Usually today on Mondays, I would have like that. I would have a lab lecture, and then I would have the lab as well. But you know, today that was canceled because first week classes there aren't any labs. So it's kind of nice. The only thing that I was able to, or the only class that I had today essentially was this one, 274. 274, here's the thing. I'm absolutely loving 274 right now. I mean, it actually is a genuinely fun class to go through right now. I mean, of course, it's like the start. And again, like I said, I'm not going to underestimate any of them, and I'm not going to call it, I'm not going to glaze it too early on because it's literally day one. But so far, I've worked ahead on the material. I'm a decent portion ahead of where we're currently supposed to be at. So far, I'm enjoying it. So at least it's a class that I really, really like. But yeah, that was the only class I had today. What's cool is that the professor in there, I'm having her for the third time in a row. And the thing about this professor that you need to understand is like she might not be like one of like the best professors, like one of the best one-off professors, but she's consistent, and she's consistently a really, really good professor. I would say she's an A-tier professor, and in my opinion, a professor who is an A-tier professor for 3 semesters straight is way more valuable than a professor who's only S-tier for one, right? Only S-tier for 1 semester, and then you never see them again. I think that consistency really shows something. So I'm super happy to have her again. And so far, I mean, she honestly seems to have like, which is cool. Like before, she was just kind of like there mainly for like lectures, mainly just trying to like give like just the spiel and just talk about the subject. But like today, she was like cracking some more jokes regarding the subject, and I really appreciated that. So that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that class. But the reason why this day was so exhausting specifically was because of everything around it, right? Afterwards, right? So this morning, I got terrible sleep. I don't know why, because my body, it always does that thing. It always does the thing where it just cannot sleep on the first day of school, or before the first day of school. So hopefully I can get some sleep because I gotta wake up at 7:45. More on that later, and it's currently around like 12:29. So pretty much I wake up eventually. Okay, I get to campus eventually. Okay, I pray to God. I'm just like, hey God, all right, new semester. This is where it's dreams are made or dreams are broken. Right. This is pretty much all it. I prayed for a good semester, and there's not much I can do more than that. So hopped out of the car, went to the library to start working on some stuff. It was a chill experience. There was this one part where obviously like I didn't reserve a study room because it just sounded too involved, and I couldn't really figure out how to reserve the specific study room that I was reserving or that I was in. And so basically someone else kind of came in and was like, hey, I reserved this room. I'm like, hey, totally good, right? And so basically had to move study rooms, but the main problem that I was having was that combined with the fact that the school internet was terrible today. I don't know what it was. And I've been spoiled because where I'm at right now has really, really good Wi-Fi. So just to be in like to go back to campus and having to wait for my potato computer to boot up like 6 minutes just to get on the servers, and then having to change rooms, turn it off, and then it's just like it's a whole process, and it happened multiple times. It's not getting kicked out of the study room, but there were several instances today where I was trying to work on the computer and it just did not want to load, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's just stuff like that, but like I said, you got to make the most out of what you have. Okay, so basically I got as much as the videos possible that I could have gotten done in terms of 498, because 498 is kind of a class where you have to watch videos. They call it, I'm not personally a fan of the term they use. They call it a flipped learning environment, where basically it's one of those ones where you essentially do all of the work at home, so that way they could do whatever in the lecture. I don't even know what we're going to do in the lecture. We're going to have that tomorrow, and I mean, I don't know. Listen, it sounds like a really, really cool class, and I think it's going to be very, very helpful for my field and for my specifics, but it's going to be a piece of work, and there's no denying that. So pretty much, especially this day, I don't know why, but for the first time, this is the only time. Usually we're only gonna have to watch like maybe like 2 videos or 1 videos before class, and then the rest of it is just gonna be doing assignments, doing stuff within the class. This time they had us watch 7 videos before tomorrow's class. So I finished the majority of them, 6 videos at school, but then I came home and there was like a 27-minute long one that I reserved for like the end of the day because because of excuses, because that's the real fact of the matter, is because of excuses. So I'm not gonna dabble in that. Okay, other than that, all right, so the big question right now, all right, why do I have this on? Okay, because it wasn't apparent in the last one take. All right, well, I'll tell you why. Okay, so about 10 days ago, my dad and I were out playing golf. We like to play golf. We haven't done it a lot in like the last decade or whatever. But we went on a streak at the end of summer break where we basically played 3 days of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was a blast. I absolutely loved it. But there was an unfortunate part where partway through on the third hole, and I didn't end up telling him this. I just kind of kept it to myself. Then I kind of conversed with my mom. She's like, all right, kind of like go and get it checked out, right? Basically what ended up happening is that we were on the 10th hole. I remember this. And so what ended up happening was that I don't know why, but for some reason, usually in golf, for people who don't really golf, you either have 2 grips, right? You have this type of grip, right, where you're kind of like going like this, or you have the interlock grip where you have the pointer finger and you have the pinky finger like this, okay? For some reason, I don't know why, I don't know if it was just that specific swing or for the entirety of that golf game, but for some reason, I interlocked all of my fingers when I was going for a drive. And so I swung back, I absolutely shot it. It was the best drive of my life. I'm pretty sure it definitely went at least 230. It might have went 250. It was the best drive of my life. But all of a sudden, after I'm done and after I follow through on the drive, I just hear just across all of my knuckles. I just feel them shift, and it's not great. And I just kind of kept it to myself because it wasn't like a searing pain. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just like discomfort. But it was very noticeable discomfort, right? And so ever since then, it's just been kind of weird because 10 days out, I was still having like this weird on and off pain where it would be off and it wouldn't even be painful at some moments, but then when it's painful, it's like really noticeably painful. And so it was just like a weird thing of like, what is it? Because it doesn't look like a sprain and it feels too bad to be a strain. So I just wanted some clarity, right? Which is why I went down to the doctor's office, and so got it checked out. And they were basically saying that for the most part, it just kind of looks like I pulled something, which is good. The people there were super friendly. I really liked it a lot. They basically just said that I pulled something, which I'm very thankful for. But then they said to make sure that I at least was wearing this for up to 7 to 10 days, just to like really, really enforce kind of like the stability again. And then also because unfortunately they didn't have x-rays available today. So now it's kind of the unfortunate bit is now I gotta go in tomorrow to go and do those x-ray things, which, yikes, it's just one of those days where I feel like you go into it not realizing how much you have to do, and then just certain things like snowball, and that's really the problem. So really, yeah, it was just, it was chaos. It was chaos, but again, at least like we're getting treated, and I mean, I don't know whether it feels better or not, but I know once we're done with the ACE wrap, it's going to feel a lot better, like in a couple of days for sure. So yeah, we're going in to do x-rays tomorrow, but before I mention that, because there's pretty much like, there's a few more important things, and then I'm going to talk about my game plan for tomorrow, because that's really the main thing I'm thinking of, okay? So pretty much the next thing that I wanted to do was I went to go meet with one of my advisors, my major specific advisor, to go talk about the possibility of pursuing a master's, right? Because my current situation is, I don't remember if I talked about this before, but my current situation is that I am currently stuck between I have two paths in front of me, right? And this is probably one of the biggest decisions that I've had to make in my life naturally. Do I immediately go into the workforce after leaving college, or do I go and get a master's, right? Because there's pros and cons to each, right? Get out, you start making money, but 2 years you pay more, but then when you get out, once you get out, then you start making even more money, right? And so it's just like, it's a thing where I could really see myself doing either or, but the problem is that it's probably one of the biggest decisions I'm going to have to make in my entire life, because it literally will determine not only the next 2 years, but just a lot of things, right? And so I'm not good at like kind of like thinking too far in the future anyways. I like to take things like day by day in a way, and so I can like develop a plan, but like if I really like try to plan out each detail and go like day for day on like what each life would look like, it's not really the greatest feeling for me. So basically I was still deciding, and so the reason why I brought this up was because I went over to my advisor, a major specific one, to talk about, hey, what would a master's entail? What would it kind of be like? How would you kind of pay for it? Would there be a stipend? Would you be in a research lab, TA, all these kinds of questions, right? But the problem was that she was like, okay, well, let's start here. Let's start by if you're even eligible to go for the master's program. And then she ran me through the numbers and made me realize that it is possible, but in order for it to happen, essentially the bare minimum that I need to be doing is I need to average out of my remaining classes except for 498. So 498, I will say, is something that spans from, depending on whether, I feel like I could say 498. I mean, like, it's not really, 498 isn't major specific, and I already said I'm in engineering. I'm going to say 498, okay? 498 is senior design, okay? That's what 498 is. So senior design is basically, you meet with a sponsor, they give you a project, you meet with a sponsor, they give you a type of project, and then you have to kind of make that project, make it come to life, and basically use your intellect and the things that you've built across the 3 years, all your skills that you've learned, in order to actually make something, which is a really, really cool concept. But unfortunately, the thing about senior design is it's not major specific, and so in terms of my schooling, it does not count towards my major specific credits. And in order for the major that I'm in order to apply for that master's program, you need a 3.0 or above, right? My cumulative GPA across all classes is a 3.071. Okay, so we're chilling, right? But my major specific, I'm pretty sure, is somewhere around 2.833. And since this is not the case, right, I'm taking 15 credits this semester and most likely 12 credits next semester. But this is a 3-credit class, and it also applies to next semester, which means basic math. 27 minus 6, 21. I have 21 credits to bring my major specific GPA from 2.833 to 3.0 or above, which essentially means that I got to get at least on estimate. Basically, the estimate is that I need to get 3.6 or higher. I need to average 3.6 or higher in all of these remaining classes in order to land it, right? So here's my thing, right? I know I can do it. I absolutely know I can, because I pulled that crazy comeback during semester 2, which is actually obviously that's the entire lore of One Take, and that's the reason why One Take was that's what proved One Take was so successful in the first place. I know I'm possible of those types of academic comebacks, and I know from semester 5, where I believe I got, it was a, was it a 3.4? I believe it was a 3.4, yeah, where I got a 3.4 in probably my hardest classes to date and the hardest set of classes to date. I know for a fact that I can buckle down in between these classes, that I can absolutely get a 3.6. The problem is that once you start considering the other factors that I also need, then it gets a little iffy as well, right? You can start to consider the fact that I need letters of rec, and I didn't really spend my time sticking out to any of the teachers in general. You get into the fact of I made a dumb move, and last year I kind of ghosted my research professor, which was a dumb move, and so that's probably, I didn't realize it in the moment, but that has got to be one of the stupidest decisions that I've made up to this point. I'm not even going to lie. That was an absolute fumble. But I feel like I could still, reach out and just kind of see just if there's anything. And if not, then I could still get back on the horse with research, right? But the thing is, you start to consider, okay, well, in order for it to happen, right, I need a GPA high enough to even apply for it, right? That's one. Then you also consider the fact, okay, I need letters of rec. Then you also consider the fact of, well, I need to find a way to pay for it, right? And so you start kind of adding on these things, right? My personal thing, so that's 3 variables. It's not too bad. My personal thing, once it gets above 5 and this is not literal, by the way, do not take this literally, but once an equation starts to have 5 or more variables, don't waste your time solving the equation, because there's too many factors involved. I'll say that again. If there are 5 or more variables in an equation in life, don't waste your time solving the equation, okay? The reason why I say that, and what it really means, right, is essentially the fact that if something is reliant on way too many aspects to actually work out, chances are it's probably not going to work out, because 100% of those things need to happen in order for that thing to happen, right? Everything has to go right. So in my case, I feel like I still want to fight for that. I still want to fight for that opportunity, because my thing is that even though I'm honestly considering going into the workforce before I go for a master's, right? Because that's my dream, is I go into the workforce, I go to a company that lets me go back and do the master's while I'm doing work, right? That's my end game, and I feel like that would be best for everybody involved. If I could find a way, or find a company that would if I could find a company that would be able to sponsor me getting my master's, that would be my dream come true, right? But the thing is, even though I want to go into the workforce directly, I want to have that option of the master's open to me, so that way, worst case scenario, even though I'm applying to jobs, which by the way I did a little bit today, if I'm applying to jobs and I somehow, by some miracle, don't land something by the time I get out, I don't want to be sitting around doing nothing. I don't want to be a sitting duck, just waiting for time to pass and applications and stuff, right? I want to be out. I want to be challenged. I want to be doing stuff with my degree, whether that's expanding my knowledge with another degree, or whether it's going straight into the workforce, applying the knowledge that I've really been trying to knock into my head. And not even trying to knock into my head, that at this point is pretty much drilled into my brain, right? This is what I've been doing for the last 3 years. I'm excited to go out and do it. But the thing is, like, I want to have both options open so that way I can just really get a feel for what each option has in store and what it can entail for the rest of my life. I don't want the decision to be made for me. And so for that reason, I would like to grind on academics, but like I said, not sacrifice everything for it. Like I said, this is the time to just combine things from previous semesters. And this is what I really realized today. I spent every semester up to this point trying to reinvent the wheel. I tried going all in on academics. I tried screw academics and just focus on myself. I tried freaking, let's focus on this club. Let's focus on whatever. Focus on blah, 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 blah. The problem with the semesters, if you go, my semesters and my college experience, is if you go semester by semester, I spent too much time overcorrecting, right? Every semester would be an overcorrection. I'd almost kind of be like, if I really, really felt like I was disconnected in one semester, like socially, then I would overcorrect, and I would get way too social in another one. If I felt like I was way too invested in girls one semester, then I would overcorrect and push myself away from any relationship opportunities. In the same way that this semester is like, I don't want to overcorrect, right? That's the reason why I'm connecting all this, right? This is not about reinventing the wheel. This is not about overcorrecting once again. This is about taking all of the overcorrections and combining it into one singular point, taking the mean, taking the average of it. And so that's really my goal, right? But you might be wondering why the title of this is called Get to Work. For those of you who don't know, there is what is called a Faudian game called Get to Work. Essentially what a Faudian game is it's basically a game that has intentionally poor controls and where making one singular mistake can make you lose boatloads of progress, right? And so I feel like the reason why that I bring it up is because one, it's like, all right, it's the intro, get to work. Like we're already here. It's the first day on campus. Even if I got one class, get to work. That's what it felt like today. That's genuinely what it felt like. But the reason why I bring it up and the reason why I mention it specifically is because I feel like in certain regards, life is a Faudian game, right? Life really is just something where you don't usually have that safety net. You don't usually have those opportunities to try and correct your mistakes or like, oh, like if, you know, like most video games, like Mario, like if you mess up at some point, oh, just pause, go out into the main menu, try again, right? And that just goes for pretty much all the video games. Like you reset the video game, you keep doing this. No, life, you only get one shot. Faudian games, you only get one shot. And the fact of the matter is like whatever you do with that shot, at the end of the day, that's what you did with the shot. You can't really, you can look back, you can either be happy with your decision, you can regret your decision, but the fact of the matter is that everything you do in that moment cannot be replicated ever again. You can't. And that's life, you know, that's life. And so that's why I feel like making the most out of what I have is really important, is because, yeah, it's stressful. Yeah, it's a lot more than I anticipated today, but guess what? At the end of the day, that's life. That's what life is. Life is stress. Life is pain. But at the end of the day, through all the pain, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what matters, right? The last thing that I'm going to mention before I go to bed and before I recap the day, because I really need to get to bed, is basically I decided, I don't know if I mentioned it, but basically there's this one game that a friend showed me recently called Electoral Carnage. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is essentially a fighting game. It is a meme fighting game where you're fighting as presidents and you're fighting against one another. They got frickin' JFK, Biden, Obama. They recently added Nixon. They've got they got Teddy Roosevelt. They've got a robot version of him, and they got some like jokes in there, right? And it's just a silly fighting game. Recently, I've been kind of getting more into it just because I really like the mechanics of a certain character. His name is Robo Teddy, and so I decided to enter a tournament just for fun, right? And so that was just mainly a thing of like I would get done with everything for school, and then I'd come home, and then I'd try to follow my rule of actually like decompressing and not having to worry about schoolwork when I get home. And so I had that tournament, right? It was a cool experience, but I mean, my freaking lag. And what I have to say, this is so random, but dude, I've been trying to freaking order an Ethernet cord that will connect to the ports in my wall. I don't know what ports they have in the place that I'm living, but it is like the worst ports possible. I don't know if I need like some sort of like I'm not gonna say like a transistor or something like that, but I need something that like connects the type of Ethernet cable that my computer supports into the one that my wall supports, because they're completely different ones. I mean, I don't even know how they could be so different. So pretty much that's where we're at right, with that, right? And so because of that, it kind of ruined the experience, but the community was super nice and they were super kind and super funny. So I feel like it was like a good treat. It was kind of like a dang, I wish I could play at like my even though if I only have 5 hours of playtime on the game, I wish I could play at my full capacity, but even then, like, I still roughly had a good time. And again, it's like making the best out of what you have. That's just the theme, right? So I mean, what else? Yeah, I mean, pretty much the rest of it. So, you know, I did the typical old Jake move where I took my phone and I rotted in bed. Okay, what I need to start doing is I need to start moving my. Here's the thing. Okay, I need to find a way to phrase this. So, what I need to do, right? Because I know I've needed to do this for a long time. I need to take my phone and I need to move it into a different room. Okay, that's super important, and that's something that I absolutely definitely need to be doing. I don't know why, but I got super self-conscious right now that the video is recording. I just want to make sure. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that looks like it's recording to me. Cool. Sorry, that's just how I am. What was I talking about? I was talking about. Let me retrace my steps. My bad. So. Yeah, I'm talking about electoral carnage. I'm talking about moving my phone. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I know I need to do a thing where I plug my phone in the other room and just kind of have it let it sit, okay? But I need to find a way to really make that transition because it's not an instant one. The problem that I have right now is that I'm one of those fools, one of those simpletons, if you will, who for some reason can't wake up without multiple alarms. I know that is a problem. It's something that I've been trying to fix, but for some reason, no matter how hard I try, I need multiple alarms in order to get up in the morning. The thing is that is the only thing that's keeping this phone in this room. That's the only reason that I check my phone in the morning is because it's still in this room. That's the only reason why I come home and I'm rot in my bed with my phone is because the phone is right there. There's no difference. If I took my phone and I just went from like here to over here, right, that's not really a big difference. Whereas, if I want to relax in my bed and I want to go get my phone, then my phone is all the way over there, right? And there's a big difference. Then I have to make that walk and I really have to think to myself, okay, do you actually want to go get your phone and do you want to rot? Or do you, like, there's some process time, there's some delay, and that's the thing. It's like, you need to delay that thought process as much as possible because the more time and more space that you put in between that, the more you realize, okay, maybe I actually don't want to do it. So I feel like my current plan, just to kind of decompress from that, we keep the phone in the room in terms of the start of the day, right? And for waking up and for multiple alarms, and also because I have a fire new ringtone for waking up, the new alarm sound, and I really love it a lot. But basically for now, we keep that in here, we keep that the same, that doesn't really change. But when I come home, and what I do in the morning is that I move my charger from here to out there. So that way in the afternoon, I don't feel like I want to come home and I want to waste all my time in bed, I want to waste all my time on my phone. That's really what I got to start doing, right? So that's the majority of it. The other stuff is just going to be I worked ahead on Digital Logic, and I know again, and then I spoiled it. All right, well, here you go. 274 is Digital Logic. Man, that did not take long. Already spoiled 2 classes on the first day. Good job, Jake. So, yeah, 274 is Digital Logic. I like Digital Logic a lot, so much to the point where I started working on it right here, just in my room, right? And so, the thing is, like, even though, like I said, I liked it a lot, I gotta take a step back and just remember, save it for school. That's the most important thing. And get everything done at school so that way when we're home we don't have to worry about anything. That's just really the main thing that I gotta keep to myself, because that's the reason why I'm up right now, and it's the reason if I didn't, then I could just be enjoying the rest of my night and I could have just gone to bed and gotten some well-earned sleep after getting that terrible night of sleep last night, right? So, yeah, then the other thing, pretty much the only thing left, is that me and my roommate, we're pretty into this show called The Rookie, which is like a cop show and stuff like that. But no offense to her, she's like, she's I listen. She's great. She's great. She's my roommate. Wouldn't trade her for the world, but like she is a certified yapper. I mean, like we started like I'm trying to remember where we started, because the idea is we were having dinner and we were watching The Rookie, but the problem is like we started watching at like, I want to say it was 8, honestly. I want to say it was like 8. It was either 8 or 9 or something like that. And by the time we get done with that, like it's like freaking 11, like whatever, 11:15. It's like, all right, well, I just spent 2 hours and 15 minutes like just doing this, which is like, and we only watched 1 episode, by the way. It wasn't like we watched 3. We watched 1 episode. It's like, bro, come on. Like, come on, brother. So it's stuff like that. Maybe at some point I gotta draw a boundary or something like that. I feel like that might not be too far out in the future, but I mean, it is what it is. So that's pretty much my day. This was a lot longer than I was expecting it to be, but yeah, pretty much the last things that I'm going to say, the very, very last things, is now the question becomes, well, obviously, what did we learn from today? Like I said, make the most out of what you have, okay? Life is like a Faudian game, okay? You only get one shot, and sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes it will set you back, but just know you can always get back on your feet, basically. That's what I will say. That's the main things that I wanted to say in terms of lessons, and then, yeah, I just wanted to, like, go over the plan for tomorrow. So the plan for tomorrow, essentially, is very, very specific, okay? And so it's kind of unfortunate because my plan involved waking up at 7:45, and now it is passing the 12:40. It says on this clock 12:56. I know it's kind of off. It's probably around like 12:47. But basically that essentially means I'm not going to get 7 hours of sleep. Fantastic. So pretty much where we're at right now is that 7:45, I wake up, okay? I wake up, have some breakfast, make myself, I even have the breakfast planned out. Scrambled eggs, bacon, English muffin, okay? Then when I'm done with that, go down to school, okay? Do some studying, not studying, you know what I mean. Do some schoolwork, okay? First class, boom, okay? After I'm done with my first class, go and get the x-rays done that I was supposed to get, that I should have gotten done today. That was kind of a robbery again. Go and get the x-rays done that we're supposed to get done today. Then afterwards, come back, do some more schoolwork, second class, okay? Find any way to fill that gap in between the second class and the third class, and then all of a sudden, we're golden. That's it. We do whatever the class entails, and we go the frick home, and then Wednesday, I'm treating as a rest day. That's it. And we're good. So, I mean, tomorrow is going to be hectic. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be like a child kicking and screaming, but at the end of the day, every child's got to have its nap eventually. So thank you everybody for watching. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Oh yikes, cut.